Emma Carter believed silence could keep the past buried. For months, it had worked, until that quiet Sunday evening when the rain would not stop and her phone suddenly lit up. She stood by the window of her Portland apartment, watching cars blur into lines of light. The room smelled faintly of coffee and old books. It was the kind of evening that made memories louder. Then the message arrived. Daniel Harper. Her breath caught. She hadn't seen his name on her screen in almost a year. Not since their careful goodbye. Not since they agreed it was better to let go than to keep hurting each other. She told herself not to open it. She opened it anyway. Daniel's message was short and honest. He was in town. Just for tonight. He wasn't sure if he should have reached out, but he did. Emma's first instinct was to lock her phone and walk away. She knew how fragile she still was. She had rebuilt her life slowly, new routines, new habits, new walls. She had promised herself she wouldn't look back. But promises were easier to make than to keep. Her mind raced. Memories pushed forward without asking. Late-night talks. Shared jokes. The feeling of being truly understood by someone. And then the slow distance that neither of them knew how to fix. She sat on the edge of the couch, phone heavy in her hand. Replying felt wrong. It felt reckless. It felt like undoing months of progress. But ignoring him felt worse. She typed a simple answer before she could overthink it. I'm here. The reply came almost instantly. A cafe by the river. The same one they used to visit after long walks. Emma noticed that detail more than she wanted to admit. She changed clothes twice, settling on something simple. Nothing too careful. Nothing that looked like she tried. Her reflection looked calm, but her heart wasn't. The rain slowed as she walked outside, the city air cold and sharp. Each step toward the cafe made her chest tighter. She told herself she could leave at any moment. She told herself this was just a conversation. When she reached the cafe, she saw him through the window. Daniel sat alone at a corner table, hands wrapped around a mug. He looked familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. His hair was shorter. His posture more serious. But when he looked up and saw her, his expression softened in a way she remembered too well. That look almost stopped her from walking in. But she did. The door closed behind her, sealing the moment. Daniel stood up, unsure, as if asking permission with his eyes. Emma nodded slightly. That was enough. Hi, he said. Hi, she replied. They didn't hug. They didn't shake hands. They just sat down, facing each other with a space between them that felt larger than the table. For a moment, neither spoke. The cafe noise filled the gap, cups clinking, low conversations, soft music. Emma focused on breathing. She reminded herself this was real. This was happening. Daniel spoke first. He asked about her job. She asked about his move. The words came easily, like old habits waking up. But beneath every sentence was something unsaid. Emma watched him carefully. She noticed the way he listened. The way he paused before answering. He seemed calmer, but also heavier. Like someone who had learned lessons the hard way. She wondered what had changed him. And more dangerously, she wondered if he still had the power to change her. As they talked, the tension didn't fade. It grew quieter, sharper. Emma felt herself slipping into a familiar rhythm, one she had missed more than she ever admitted. She knew this was the beginning of something she couldn't control. And that scared her more than she was ready to say. The cafe felt warmer than before, but the space between Emma and Daniel remained tight with unspoken history. They talked faster now, as if time was chasing them. Daniel spoke about his work in Seattle, the long hours, the quiet apartment he never fully settled into. Emma told him about her new role at the design firm, the small victories that helped her stay busy. The words came easily, but meaning hid between them. Emma watched Daniel's hands as he spoke. They moved with calm purpose, the same way they always had. It reminded her of how safe she once felt just sitting beside him. The thought made her shift in her chair. Daniel noticed. "Are you okay?" She nodded quickly. "Yeah. Just surprised, I guess." He smiled softly. "Me too." The rain outside started again, light at first, then steady. The windows fogged, turning the world into a blur. It felt like the cafe was closing in on them, creating a small space where only the two of them existed. Daniel leaned back. "I didn't plan to see you," he said. "But when I landed, I kept thinking about this place. About us." Emma's chest tightened. She stirred her drink even though she wasn't going to drink it. "We said we wouldn't do this," she replied. "I know," he said. "I'm not asking for anything." But his eyes told a different story. The conversation shifted without warning. Old jokes surfaced. Shared memories slipped out. They laughed more than they should have. It felt natural, and that scared Emma more than the sadness ever did. She remembered the night they broke up. How calm they were. How grown up they tried to be. How both of them left things unsaid because it felt easier than fighting. Looking at him now, she wondered if that silence had been the real mistake. Daniel glanced at his phone and frowned. "I should go soon," he said. "I don't want to rush this." Emma didn't know why, but the idea of him leaving so quickly made her heart race. "We could walk," she said before she could stop herself. "By the river." Daniel looked surprised. Then he nodded. "I'd like that." They paid and stepped outside. The air was cool, fresh with rain. Streetlights reflected off the wet ground. The city hummed quietly around them. They walked side by side, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's presence. Emma noticed how easily their steps matched. She hated how right that felt. "Do you ever think about how things ended?" Daniel asked. She hesitated. "All the time. I left because I didn't know how to stay without losing myself," he said. "I didn't realize I was also losing you." The words landed hard. Emma stopped walking. She turned to face him, her expression guarded. "You didn't give me a chance to understand," she said. Daniel nodded. "I know. That's something I carry." The river flowed quietly beside them. The sound filled the silence that followed. Emma crossed her arms, trying to protect herself. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I don't want to pretend it didn't matter," he said. "It still does." Her heart pounded. She wanted to step back. She wanted to step closer. Both felt dangerous. She started walking again, faster this time. Daniel followed, saying nothing. The tension between them grew heavier with every step. Emma knew this night was changing something inside her. The walls she built were shaking. She had worked too hard to feel steady again. Yet as they reached the bend in the path, she realized one thing clearly. She wasn't ready to let him walk away. And that thought frightened her more than anything else. The river path narrowed as they walked, the city noise fading behind them. The lights reflected on the water, broken and restless, much like Emma's thoughts. They slowed without speaking. The air felt heavier now, charged with everything they were avoiding. Daniel stopped first. "I need to say this before I lose the chance," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were not. "I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I was scared of failing you." Emma turned to him. The words hit deeper than she expected. She had prepared herself for excuses, not honesty. "I waited," she said quietly. "I kept thinking you'd come back. And then I had to learn how not to." Daniel swallowed. "I know. And I hate that I made you do that alone." The space between them felt fragile, like one wrong move could shatter everything. Emma hugged her coat tighter around herself. She wanted to protect her heart, but it was already exposed. Daniel took a small step forward, then stopped. He didn't touch her. He didn't rush her. That pause mattered more than anything else. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said. "I just needed you to know the truth." Emma closed her eyes for a second. Memories rushed in. Late nights talking about dreams. Silent mornings filled with comfort. The moment she realized she loved him. And the moment she realized love wasn't enough to make someone stay. When she opened her eyes, Daniel was still there, waiting. "I don't know what this is," she said. "But I know it hurts." He nodded. "It hurts me too." The wind moved through the trees, carrying the sound of water and distant traffic. The world kept going, unaware of the quiet storm between them. Emma stepped closer. Not because it was safe. Not because it was smart. But because pretending she felt nothing was no longer possible. Daniel's breath caught. Slowly, carefully, he wrapped his arms around her. The embrace was gentle, uncertain, full of restraint. It was not about desire. It was about comfort, regret, and everything left unsaid. Emma rested her forehead against his shoulder. She felt his heart beating, fast and uneven. Her own matched it. For a moment, everything else disappeared. Then reality returned. Emma pulled back first. Her hand shook slightly. "We can't forget why this ended," she said. "I know," Daniel replied. "And I don't want to repeat the same mistakes." She studied his face, searching for signs of false hope. What she saw instead was humility. And that scared her. Because it meant change was possible. But possible did not mean certain. Daniel glanced at the dark sky. "If I stay longer," he said, "this will become harder." Emma looked toward the river, then back at him. Her mind raced. She thought about the nights she cried alone. The strength it took to move forward. The life she built without him. She also thought about how alive she felt standing there. "I don't trust myself right now," she admitted. Daniel gave a small, sad smile. "Neither do I." They stood in silence again, neither willing to move. The moment stretched thin, balanced on a choice neither wanted to make. Emma felt the pull of the past and the fear of the future tug at her equally. She knew one thing for certain. If she let this go too far, it would change everything. And she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. Yet as they turned back toward the city, walking side by side once more, she felt it clearly. The line between right and wrong was no longer clear. And she was standing right on it. The walk back to Emma's apartment felt heavier than the journey out. The river lights faded behind them, replaced by the quiet streets of Portland, wet and reflective from the rain. Every step felt deliberate, every sound sharper in the night air. At her door, they stopped. Neither wanted to move first. The apartment key in her hand felt heavier than it should. This was the moment where everything could shift, or break completely. Emma took a deep breath. "I lost control tonight," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "And part of me feels wrong for feeling this way." Daniel looked at her, calm yet intensely focused. "And part of you doesn't," he said. His words were gentle, almost careful, but they hit her like a spark. The air between them seemed to pulse with all they had left unsaid. Emma's chest tightened. She wanted to step back, to protect herself from the danger of wanting him again. But something inside pushed her forward, past the caution she had clung to for months. "I don't know if I'm ready for what this could mean," she admitted. "But I do know I can't pretend it doesn't matter." Daniel nodded slowly. His eyes softened, a mix of hope and regret. "We don't have to rush," he said. "We can take it slow. Be honest. See where it goes." The simplicity of that promise, the quiet care in his tone, made Emma's heart ache. She realized the truth, loving him wasn't a mistake. Staying silent about what she wanted, that had been the real mistake. They lingered in the doorway, the rain outside softening, the city quiet. Each moment stretched, filled with the weight of possibility. Emma wanted to ask him to stay, to ignore the clock and the rules of reason. But she held herself back, letting the pause speak. Daniel reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, careful not to intrude. It was a small gesture, almost nothing, and yet it carried all the tension, longing, and history between them. Emma closed her eyes for a second, leaning just slightly into it. "I don't want to lose this," Daniel said quietly. "Not again." Emma opened her eyes and met his gaze. She saw the honesty there. No grand promises, no dramatic declarations, just truth, fragile and steady. "Then let's not pretend," she said. "Not like before. If we do this, we do it real." He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "Real," he repeated. The streetlights reflected off the wet pavement, casting a soft glow on them. Everything around them could have been forgotten. For this moment, there was only the connection that survived absence, heartbreak, and distance. Daniel finally stepped back, giving her space but staying close enough to feel. "I have an early flight," he reminded her. "But I wanted you to know. I'm not done with us." Emma's chest ached with the weight of that. She wanted to reach for him, to ask for certainty, to defy all caution. But instead, she let the words settle. "I know," she said softly. "And I'm not done either." He smiled faintly, a small, honest curve of his lips that said more than words ever could. Without another move, he turned and walked away, leaving her at the door, her hand still on the handle. Emma leaned back against the door, closing her eyes, taking in the emptiness that now felt full. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if they would succeed or stumble again. But for the first time in a long time, she knew one thing: losing control tonight hadn't broken her. It had reminded her that her heart was alive, that longing could still feel good, and that sometimes, doing something that felt wrong could also be exactly what was right. And she was ready to see where that truth would take her.